Dear viewers, our topic today is the University Wits. The University Wits is a term which refers to the constellation of young men who turn to playwriting to make a living. They made Elizabethan popular drama more literary and in some respects more dramatic. The University Wits set the course for later Elizabethan and Jacobean drama, and in particular paved the way for Shakespeare. The group consists of John Lilly, Robert Greene, George Peele, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Kidd, Thomas Nash, and Christopher Marlowe. Lilly turned to drama after his success with Euphues. He adapted his courtly, artificial prose to the stage to produce a new kind of court comedy. His balanced and stylized prose refined dramatic speech and influenced other playwrights. For example, Shakespeare's middle comedies are indebted to Lilly with respect to their scintillating prose. Lilly derived his plots from the Greek legend, but he did not simply dramatize well known classical myths. He used characters and themes from mythology in a wholly original way. His comedy of Alexander, Campesie, and Diogenes introduces characters from Greek history. Its theme is the rivalry between Alexander the Great and the painter Apelles, because both love Campesie. It is handled with a mixture of mythology and sentiment. Mythology is more pronounced in Sappho and Phao, Endymion and Midas, which interweave more realistic subplots with the main mythological theme. Galatea loves metamorphosis, and The Woman in the Moon are pastoral plays. The first is laid in Lancashire, the second in Arcadia, and the third in Utopia. But in fact, the scene is the same in all three. It is a pastoral dreamland against which allegorical and mythological action is played out. The Woman in the Moon is Lilly's only play in blank verse, and it is more satirical in tone than any of his others. Mother Bombay stands apart from his other plays. This is a comedy in the tradition of Plautus and Terence. In this comedy, mischievous young men and their ingenious servants outwit their more prudential elders in bringing their love affairs to a successful conclusion. Lilly's plays are not well organized. The subplots are not always effectively tied up with the main story. The euphuistic prose is often tedious. Still, his plays show a sense of form and a new conception of comedy. George Peele began his career as a dramatist with a courtly mythological pastoral play in the same vein as many of Lilly's. This was the arraignment of Paris, played by the children of the chapel before the Queen in the early 1580s. Peele takes the familiar story of the judgment of Paris, handling the love of Paris, and Inoni and Paris' subsequent faithlessness with a smooth lyrical grace. The love of Colin for his hard-hearted Theostyles provides a subplot. The rustic characters provide a more realistic level of action. Paris is summoned before the council of the gods to be accused of partiality in his judgment. He defends himself in vigorous blank verse, and in the end, Diana awards the disputed golden apple to a gracious nymph. The play is turned into a compliment to Queen Elizabeth. Peele's Old Wives' Tale is a play of wicked enchantment and true love. It begins as a story told by Madge, wife of Clunch the blacksmith, to three gay fellows whom she is entertaining at her cottage. As soon as she begins to tell the story, the characters appear to act it out so that Mad's story becomes the play. The Battle of Alcazar is a crude piece of bombast, and Edward I a loosely linked episodic treatment of history. The love of King David and fair Bathsheba dramatizes the biblical story of David's love for Bathsheba and Absalom's rebellion in richly ornamented and slow-moving blank verse. Robert Greene is better known for his graphic autobiographical prose than for his plays, but he too turned to the drama as a source of livelihood. The Honourable History of Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay deals with Bacon's proof of his magical powers. Greene combines with this not only some colloquial humour but also a love idyll between Margaret and Lassie. The Scottish history of James IV is not, as its title might suggest, a history play, but a serious comedy derived from a story by the Italian Cinthio. The main story concerns King James' love for Idea and its disastrous consequences, but Ida's steadfast discouragement of a royal war and Queen Dorothea's constancy to her erring husband bring the story to a happy ending. Greene's other plays are less interesting. Orlando Furioso is based on Ariosto and Alphonsus, and King of Aragon shows the influence of Marlowe's Tamburlaine. Thomas Lodge is much less important as a contributor to the development of the drama. His most interesting work is his euphuistic prose romance, Rosalinde, the source of Shakespeare's As You Like It. Lodge collaborated with Greene in A Looking Glass for London and England, a moral play about a vicious tyrant called to repentance. His one certainly known wholly original play is The Wounds of Civil War, lively set forth in the true tragedy of Marius and Sylla. This treatment of the civil war between Marius and Sylla is interesting as an early dramatic handling of Roman history. Thomas Kyd was the founder of Romantic tragedy, mingling the themes of love, conspiracy, murder, and revenge. Kyd found a way of adapting some of the main elements of the Senecan tragedy to roaring melodrama. The Spanish tragedy, written by Kyd, is the first and, in its own melodramatic way, the most powerful of the series of revenge plays which so captured the Elizabethan and the Jacobean imagination. The political background of the play is the victory of Spain over Portugal in 1580. Lorenzo and Balthazar kill Horatio, who is the son of Hieronimo, the Marshal of Spain. Hieronimo plots to take the revenge of his son. He arranges a play with Bellimperia in order to achieve his purpose. During the course of the play, Lorenzo and Balthazar are killed, and Bellimperia and Hieronimo kill themselves one after the other. Two more tragedies were written anonymously. One is Locrine, a Senecan treatment of a story from legendary British history. According to modern critics, it is written by Peel and Greene. Thomas Arden of Feversham is the other anonymous tragedy. It depicts the murder of Thomas Arden by his wife Alice Arden and her lover, and their punishment. The story is presented with remarkable psychological realism, concentrating on the changing passions and doubts and fears of the principal characters, with an insight into character that the Spanish tragedy never displays. The play has been attributed to Kidd and Marlowe jointly. Arden of Feversham is an impressive play which anticipates many later developments in Elizabethan and Jacobean tragedy. Marlowe is the most impressive dramatist among the University Wits. He improved the English tragedy with respect to its language and theme. Marlowe rose to fame very quickly on account of his play Tamburlaine the Great. Written in two parts, the play shows an immense advance on the blank verse of Gobotok. It is loosely based on the life of the Central Asian Emperor Timur. The first part deals with the rise of the Scythian shepherd robber Tamburlaine and his love for his captive Xenocrate. The second part deals with the continuation of his conquests, which extend to Babylon. This part ends with the death of Xenocrate and Tamburlaine himself. Tamburlaine is a study of lust for power. Its protagonist believes that by an effort of will, he can become the master of his fate. He ignores moral considerations and tries to achieve his boundless ambition, which ultimately leads up to his destruction. Marlowe's next important play is the tragical history of Dr. Faustus. It is written in blank verse and prose. It was probably completed in the winter of 1588-89. It is perhaps the first dramatization of the medieval legend of a man who sold his soul to the devil and who became identified with a Dr. Faustus, a necromancer of the 16th century. Necromancy is the practice of magic involving communication with the dead, either by summoning their spirits as apparitions, visions, or raising them bodily, in order to discover hidden knowledge or to bring someone back from the dead. The one who practices necromancy is a necromancer. Well, Dr. Faustus is a Tamburlaine on the intellectual plane. His ambition for ultimate knowledge is in keeping with the Renaissance philosophy which equates knowledge with power. On the surface, Dr. Faustus deals with the Renaissance zeal for limitless understanding, but it has a specifically Christian background. It emphasizes the popular Christian notion of a forbidden knowledge. So the play is an enactment of the fall of man and touches the profounder aspects of human situation. In this respect, it resembles Shakespeare's Macbeth. Of Marlowe's other plays, The Jew of Malta is a dramatic presentation of a Machiavellian man, full of greed and cunning, who will stop at nothing to attain his ends. But the ambition of Babas, the Jew of Malta, lacks the central drive of either Tamburlaine or Faustus, and despite some effective moments of grim irony, the play lacks a well-organized form. Edward II is a study of weakness rather than of strength. Edward II is the sentimental weakling betrayed and done to death by the forces of ambition and cruelty. Marlowe is gaining a greater control over his dramatic material and is moving toward a new subtlety in character portrayal in this drama. He is interested both in Edward's weakness and in the proud corruptors of the light-brained king. As a work of sustained dramatic invention, this is the best of Marlowe's plays. The scene in which Edward is murdered shows Marlowe dealing for the first time in the pathetic. The play as a whole moves between violence and pathos. This play reminds one of Shakespeare's Richard II, which is an improvement on Edward II. Tamburlaine and Dr. Faustus reveal Marlowe's characteristic splendor. Unfortunately, his early death by violence in 1593 deprived the world of a great playwright who might have rivaled Shakespeare if he had lived longer. However, it can still be said that his dramatic debut was one of the most remarkable in English literary history, and one which has left a lasting impression. To conclude, we can say that the University Wits lent a creative touch to the drama of their times and paved way for Shakespeare, who perfected it by dint of his consummate skill. Thank you very much.